right there. Oh, we got it. I got him that time. I got him that time. Are you kidding? Whether you are just getting into fishing or you have been fishing your entire life, I think one of the most fun things that we can do as an angler is going bank fishing, going to a local pond, a local stream, picking up a few rods and just having a ball. Now, something that can ruin your bank fishing experience is not catching any bass or any fish at all. So in this video, I'm gonna talk actually about the top 3 lures that I never go bank fishing without. So stay tuned, it's gonna be a good one. This video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. One of the best things that you can do while you're fishing is stay protected from the sun. That is why I've come out with USA made sun shirts, one of the only USA made sun shirts out there on the market. And right now for the month of June 2024, I have a special going on at Fin Fishing. You can actually get a USA made sun shirt, a hat, and a pair of sun gloves for $84 plus free shipping. All you gotta do is add the USA made sun shirt to cart, add the hat that you want to cart, add the sun gloves that you want to cart, and it will automatically discount at checkout. So if you guys would like to help support this channel, click those links down below for Fin Fishing today. Now let's get into the top 3 bank fishing lures. I'm gonna save what I think is the best one for last, but I'm gonna actually start with probably my favorite one, which is a frog. Oh no! Gosh, my drag was too loose. Dude, that was a big fish. Right in the middle of that scum. I mean, that I saw a good amount of that fish and it looked like a 3. Right there. Oh, we got it again. I got him that time. I got him that time. Are you kidding? Come on, baby. Oh, dude, that is about a 3-pounder. Oh, I'm gonna lose him. I'm gonna lose him. It doesn't matter how long you have been fishing, there's nothing quite like a topwater bite. And in my opinion, a frog has really been made for ponds. One of the most prominent types of cover that you're going to find when you go bank fishing is a lot of scum, especially in ponds. You're gonna have these slimy scum mats. Now, over the years, I have actually seen a lot of guys avoid these scum mats and trying to get their baits away from the scum. But the truth is that the bass absolutely love these scum mats. And the reason being is that this scum is just floating on top of the surface. So the bass actually like to get right up underneath of all that scum and sit in the shade that that scum provides. Even in the hottest parts of the summer, you will find fish literally in inches of water underneath of this scum. Now, the bad thing about this scum is that it can be very hard, it can be very difficult to get any lure around it without it getting completely bogged up by a bunch of slime and nastiness. But that is exactly where a frog excels. Now, a best thing about throwing a frog around scum is this is a very easy technique. You're literally going to cast this bait, land it right on the top of the scum, and I'm gonna slowly drag it across the scum. And the best thing is that bass are going to explode through this scum and absolutely clobber that bait. God. That's either a big one or he's just got a lot of salad on him. Come here, fish. Oh gosh, I think it is a pretty good one. Oh my gosh. Not a bad one at all. Look at that, dude. Whole hair lip. Not a bad one. Now, without a doubt, the most important thing that you should know when it comes to fishing a frog is that braided line is an absolute must. Whether you are fishing a bait cast rod and reel like I was today, or even a spinning rod, you're gonna wanna use a fishing line that has a 0 stretch, just like braid. Now, I'm not saying that you absolutely couldn't fish a frog on monofilament. I mean, you could also fish a frog on fluorocarbon, but fluorocarbon sinks, which is going to kind of drag that frog down and really kind of make the action of that frog a little bit more dull. And monofilament just stretches a lot. So if you're fishing around a lot of cover, you tend to lose a lot of fish with mono. So could you try it? Yes, but braid is really the way to go when you're fishing a frog. Now, I would highly suggest going with a 40 or 50 pound braid. I really like 50, and I love this rod that I'm using right here for frogs. This is an ARC Tharp Series Moneymaker rod. It is 7 foot 2 inch, medium heavy, a fast action rod. I also like to fish a frog on a high gear ratio reel. This is an ARC Gravity 7 reel. It's an 8.1 to 1 gear ratio. Now, when it comes to the frog itself, there are a number of great frogs out there on the market. Today, I was actually using a Berkley Swamp Lord frog. I've never used this, so I just kind of wanted to test out this bait. I did notice that the plastic on this bait was very soft. Having that softer frog, I think, just helps you have a better hookup to land ratio, because when a fish comes up there and gets that bait, they typically have to actually compress the frog down to expose those hooks. Those hooks are kind of hidden around the frog, which makes it great for fishing around heavy cover, but if it is a very stiff, hard plastic frog, it can be a little bit harder to hook up with fish. So I really like that Swamp Lord because it has that soft plastic and it has a really strong hook. Now, when it comes to the color of a frog, there's really 3 colors that I'm gonna throw, and one is kind of a dark color. It's a black, or kind of like this brownish colored one that I have right here. I like to use these darker colored frogs when I have kind of cloudier days, like the day that we're having today. The next color frog I'm gonna use a lot is a white colored frog. If you fish from the bank and you know that the bass are eating, a lot of bait fish or a lot of shad, sometimes they are threadfin and gizzard shad in small bodies of water, a white frog is definitely the way to go. The third color is going to be a bluegill colored frog, something that's a little bit lighter or whiter with an orange throat. That's going to be the frog that I pick up a lot when I'm fishing, neighborhood ponds like the one behind me. Now, with all that being said, you should know that the top of your frog, the color of the top of your frog, does not matter. I mean, it really does not. The bass are not going to see that. It's all about the belly of that frog. Now, one little sneaky trick that I like to do when I am frog fishing is I like to speed the bait up randomly throughout my cast. So a lot of times I'm gonna cast that bait out, whether it's in open water or actually on top of a scum mat. I'm gonna be kind of twitching it along slowly, and then every now and then throughout the cast, I'm gonna hit it 4, 5, 6 times really quick, just bam, 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 bam. And it just kind of scoots that frog really quickly across the surface. And I have found that there are days out there on the water where bass will be tracking that frog. They're just underneath the scum, or they're just kind of looking at that bait, and all of a sudden you hit it real quick 4 or 5 times, and what it does is it will trigger the bass into a reaction strike. That bass all of a sudden thinks that what they're about to eat is getting away from them, and so they just have to go up there and get it. So just do that a couple of times throughout a cast. Now, there are days out there on the water where the fish just do not want to eat on top, or maybe it's a little bit windy and cloudy and the bass are just moving away from the cover. And in those situations, the next lure that I'm gonna pick up is a chatterbait or some sort of bladed jig. There he is. That's not a bad fish. Heck yeah, look at that chunk. Interesting. So it's my first time to this pond. I'm just trying to see what's going on. I just threw a frog all through this area. Had one little blow up and thought maybe there's just small ones in here. But look at that. I mean, that's a solid fish right there, and look how he ate that mini max. One of the best things about a bladed jig, in my opinion, is it really can catch bass year round. I mean, you can be in the dead of winter, the dead of summer, and anywhere in between, and a bladed jig just tends to get a lot of bites. Now, to me, the frog obviously is going to cover that top of the water column, and your bladed jig is really going to cover the middle of the water column. And sometimes you will fish ponds or little small lakes from the bank where there's just an open flat area. Maybe it's 5, 6, 7 foot deep. There's a little bit of grass kind of coming up from the bottom. There's no better way, there's no better lure to use in those situations to cover a lot of water than a chatterbait. Now, there are a number of different bladed jigs out there on the market, but I'm gonna let you know right now that if you are fishing from the bank, I think the best one that you can use is the chatterbait Mini Max. This particular bladed jig has really become probably one of my favorite lures to not only fish from the bank, but also from the boat. I have used this thing all over the country and I've caught a ton of bass on a chatterbait Mini Max. The thing that I like about this bait is that it's really just a more compact version of your normal chatterbaits. And so to me, it just gets a lot of bites, not only from big fish, but just a number of fish. Now, there's a number of different trailers that you can use with a chatterbait. Some baits that are specifically made for trailers as a chatterbait. Something that I think works really good with this particular Mini Max bait, which is really small, is actually this little X-Zone drop shot bait. For a number of years, I used to cut down a caffeine shad to feed on the back of my Mini Max, but really this particular bait is almost the exact shape of what I used to cut a caffeine shad down into. And to me, it's really the perfect size to kind of pair with like a 3/8 ounce Mini Max. Now, probably the most important thing to do when you are fishing a chatterbait is make sure that you are constantly varying the retrieve. I think something that a lot of anglers get in a bad habit of doing is just casting this bait out and reeling it back in, literally imparting no action on the bait. And there are a lot of times where bass are gonna track this bait. They're gonna get behind it, they're tracking it. So if you're varying the retrieve, if you're kind of just popping it, letting it fall from time to time, just completely killing it, that is going to trigger bass to actually eating this bait. Now, when it comes to fishing a chatterbait Mini Max, I actually have a designated chatterbait rod that I use a lot. It's a 7.1-to-1 gear ratio reel. I like 20-pound fluorocarbon, which is probably on the heavier side, but you can typically just get away with it when you're using a chatterbait. But you could definitely use this with 10 or 12 or 15-pound fluorocarbon or monofilament. I've also found over the years, after testing a lot of different rods, that those composite rods like this B-Hitte rod from ARC are really the best type of rods when it comes to a chatterbait. You want a little bit of give with that bait. It really helps you to hook those fish deeper and get a good hook in them. And guys, as always, I'm gonna leave everything down below in the description if you want to check out the exact gear that I like to use. Now, we have made it to the last lure, and like I said, to me, this is the best lure. This is the one that is the most consistent throughout the entire year. It's the one that I will never go pond fishing without, and that is the Gary Yamamoto Senko. Now, specifically, I like to wacky rig a Senko. It's always a great fish catcher. It works in a lot of different conditions, but one of the most important things that I like to do with a Senko that's a little bit different than a lot of guys is I will actually fish this bait pretty fast. Now, the traditional way of fishing a wacky rig is casting that bait out and just letting it sink to the bottom. And there are definitely days where the bass absolutely love that. But over the years, something that I have started to do a lot is cast this bait out and work it just below the surface, actually pretty quick. I'm gonna cast that bait out, let it sink about a foot, maybe 2 foot below the surface, and then I'm gonna pop it 3, 4, 5, 6 times just below the surface and then let it sink again about a foot. And I will repeat this all the way back to the bank. Now, there are definitely days where the bass will not like a wacky rigged work like this, but I swear there are days where they come unglued working it this way, and it is one of the most fun ways that you can go about catching a bass. Now, probably the most important thing to remember about a Senko is that wacky rigging it is not your only option. There's a number of different ways that you can rig up a Senko that can really help you to catch even more bass at times than that wacky rig. And I actually did a full video all about that, and I'm gonna leave it linked right here. So if you guys wanna learn more ways to rig up a Senko, then go ahead and click right here. I will see you guys in the next video.